I went to Kazakhstan for holiday for 5 days, and I come back to an office which is abuzz with the news of the biggest engagement of the century. Of course, you guessed it, that's the Taylor Swift and NFL star Travis's engagement. And the internet is abuzz and ablaze with all of the news of this engagement. Now, obviously, Taylor Swift, who is probably worth around $1.5 billion, and Travis, not far away, but around $70 million, would probably be thinking about the legalities concerning solemnization of their marriage and possibly what we call a prenuptial agreement. Now, prenup agreements are not what I call something that is dooming your marriage to failure or something that sets a terrible tone to getting married. But when you have two significant incomes, two significant celebrities, and a potential for future earnings, it's only natural to consider having a prenup. And what a prenup really does is it helps you protect confidentiality around the arrangements of the marriage. It helps you protect assets that each party has or brings to the table or keeps away from the table. You've seen my video on premarital assets and the case that I highlighted. I'll link it below as well. And then obviously you think about future earnings, because when you get married and you're young, and Taylor Swift and the NFL stars case, they have a great and long future hopefully ahead of them, which means that they will be earning more and more money. And this could potentially complicate the relationship if aspects concerning who owns what gets pooled into marital assets, and how a potential split might happen in the future, and who would get what, alimony, etc., would be better set out, however hard lined I sound. I mean, unfortunately, my mind does think like this. Now, let's bring this love story into the UAE or the Middle Eastern context. So in the UAE, back in 2005, the laws really were based on kind of the religious aspects of your marriage and the applicable law and preference that you might have followed. So there wasn't really that much scope for non-Muslims and expatriates, say like for myself, to end up in a situation where I could have a divorce under UAE courts, but under, say, my domicile or the law under which my marriage was solemnized, in my case Hindu law, for example, which is a different kind of personal status law. Now, if you fast forward this, in 2022, a very significant piece of legislation was passed, which is the civil law concerning the personal status of non-Muslims, which affects all the expatriates, because as you can tell, the UAE is a big melting pot. You have loads of millionaires and gazillionaires moving to the UAE at the moment. We've always had a very big expatriate population. We've had many marriages. A lot of people come here very young, and many marriages have also been solemnized either in Europe. We see a lot of UK marriages, Indian marriages, etc., or where one party might be Muslim and one party might be of another faith, etc. So the 2022 law really allows for a marriage contract, and technically a prenuptial agreement isn't really talked about or recognized per se, but this can potentially be agreed and attached to the marriage contract, which can then be attested, etc., and you can effectively have the protection of a prenup in the UAE as a result. So a big change and a big move forward. I know I'm like the bearer of doom and gloom, I've said this before, but kind of that's my job. It is hard to look into the future when your love is young and your love is all-consuming, and it's a great thing and it's a beautiful feeling, but it's also important to realize that there may be a lot at stake. And in fact, if you have children from that union or marriage, then you need to safeguard for them as well, and you can't end up in a position where you have a very acrimonious dispute, or where one party seeks to lose everything that they worked during their entire life for. So that's my take on it. I'll link my earlier videos on divorce in the UAE, as well as I said, premarital assets in that bucket. And please feel free to contact me for any questions. Thank you so much for watching Think Tank and for all your support. We'll look forward to seeing what Taylor Swift and Travis agree to.